We do believe the broader you have participation in the market, the more people that can come in and innovate.
Services are changing, customer behavior is changing, traffic patterns change, and we need new things in the telecom networks at a faster pace. And to get to that interoperability with these new things, following the old standards approach is just not viable.
Using an open source development model, you can build a platform that gives you interfaces that you can sort of de facto standardize on.
Openness is crucial.
It's everybody coming together.
Openness really allows and enables a multi-vendor solution.
What service providers really need is agility to roll out new services.
Open in the sense of a lot of people building solutions only play a small role in the overall end-to-end solution. Embrace openness because it's a key ingredient to innovation, security, and tighter integration.
My name is Martyn Warwick. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of TelecomTV, and I'll be moderating this panel this evening. Before we begin, I would like to bring up very briefly on stage the two sponsors of today's panel. So that's Lynn Comp, Director of Market Development Network Platforms Group at Intel. Lynn, good to see you again. You're very popular. And Sarwar Raza, VP of NFV Product Management at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And you're popular too. Good to see you. Let me get in between you. Now, the panel discussion we're about to have is about the challenges of deploying open source into large-scale carrier networks. And before we begin, I'm going to ask the two sponsors, starting with Lynn. Why did you sponsor this? Why is it so important? What do you mean when you talk about openness in this context? Because this is going to be pretty open.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the main things to always remember when it's open is you need to also have open conversations and share BKMs, our best known methods. Sorry, that's an Intel speak. But be able to have this open confrontation or open collaboration or open conversations. It's all about moving the industry forward. And so one of the things I saw when I looked at the title as I walked in is I thought, it's very much like being in the cloud in the enterprise. Years ago, if any of you remember what it was like to have the conversation, does Linux really belong in the enterprise? Or maybe Linux belongs in some enterprises, but not in the banks. And then when you look at where Linux is today, you can see that open source and open standards really have evolved, and they have created a level of stability with agility that no one really saw coming when things like Linux were starting to deploy. And so I think it's really important as we're having these conversations in a different industry to realize that openness in discussion, openness in standards, openness in interfaces, and open source really are things that can collectively move the industry forward in a faster pace as long as we continue to have an open conversation.
Thank you. Your turn.
So, I think open means different things to different people, right? At its heart, open source is about leveraging the power of community development, right? Communities that bring together vendors, end users, academia. And what we've seen in the telecom industry over the last several years is a real urge on the part of our customers, the service providers, to move from simply using open source components, be it web servers, operating systems, to now demanding systems that are based on open source. So whether it's OpenStack or OpenStack as part of OpenNFV, or rather OPNFV, that conversation is actually getting more and more interesting every year. There's there's some debate as to whether or not OpenStack is ready. I think every year we set ourselves a challenge to sort of march up that maturity curve, and I think we're getting there. So let's hear from our panelists
We'll see. Well, we're going to call you both back at the very end for very brief reaction shots. We've got the cameras to see what you made of it. And there we go. We're open for business. Let me introduce the panel to start with. On my left here is an old friend, Francisco Javier Ramon Salguero, Head of Virtualization at Telefonica GCTO. Francisco, welcome. On his left is Sorabh Saxena, Senior Vice President, Software Development and Engineering at AT&T. Also very welcome. His left, Chris Lewis, Industry Analyst and founder of Lewis Insight, an all-round good egg, and another old friend. And on his left, Chris Wright, Chief Technologist at Red Hat. So that's the panel, and here we go. So we're talking about, does open source stack up for service provider transformation? See what we did there? Stack up, clever, eh? Now, first question, this is to all of you, and if you don't volunteer, I'll pick on somebody. Okay, so since the inception of NFV, openness has been the mantra for the global industry. In the first instance for the carriers, and later then for the vendor ecosystem. More recently, there's been an increasing emphasis on open source in carrier networks. The big question here, I think, has to be, isn't the concept of deploying open source in carrier networks completely countercultural and technologically counterintuitive to the service provider community, and thus a negation of everything they've been doing in the development of their networks over so many years? Why is open source all of a sudden so all-fired important to service providers? And couldn't this actually, at base, be a case of, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Who'd like to start?
Sure.
Go for it.
So, Martyn, firstly, open source is not a sudden realization at AT&T. Allow me to explain on that. The first point I would like to make is, if you study the traffic profile and cost economics, just to give you a little bit of statistics here, since 2007, our mobile traffic has grown 150,000%. And in the next 5 to 6 years, we anticipate 10x growth for all of our network traffic. Clearly, the ways of the old won't help with the cost economic that we need now. So obviously, we have to find newer answers. And we believe solely relying on proprietary black box approach will not do it. And we have to adopt open source approaches to help with the cost economics. That's point one. Point two is that the customers are demanding instantaneous network management and services capabilities. To support that, we know very well that closed black box approach has not worked and cannot work. The only way we can do that is a combination of open source working together with open architecture to build platforms to deliver the capabilities the customers are demanding right now. You talked about cultural transformation, so let me try to hit that squarely. AT&T has among the largest private corporation IT shops in the world. And at the center of that IT shop is software. So in the IT world itself, we've been adopting open source over the last few years already, and we're bringing that playbook to the software-defined network now. So it's a rather natural evolution from where we were. And finally, and maybe the most important point, that process and technology transformation is absolutely in our DNA. We've been around for 120 plus years, and you can't survive that long without continually transforming. So as you might have read in the recent New York Times article, that we have a skills pivot going on, and a program that's been on for up to 3 years already, and will go at least into 2020, which basically is retooling our large workforce and pivoting them towards the future. And software is at the core of it to deliver frugality, delivers agility, and delivers speed. And hence, if you tie it all together, open source is right at the middle of it all.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go.
Yep, and I tend to agree with. We suffer all the same stuff, but I would like to take it from a different perspective, because often the service providers will say, I'm doing this because, look, my life is so hard. I have so many things to complain about. It's not true. I mean, there are challenges as in any other industry. And actually what we need is to reinvent ourselves as any other industry, and we need to do the things to adapt it to a world that is changing in many ways. I mean, we have more data traffic for the good, because otherwise it wouldn't be, if we hadn't offered the data traffic, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So, but the thing is that we need to manage that. And I think that there are a couple of things that are the hopes that we have with open source, and then I could connect with the open source. Actually, what we want is more agility. We want to change the way that we do the things because people are demanding that we do the things faster. And to try and make mistakes. But we want that those mistakes, if we make we make 3 mistakes and a big hit, the problem is that we can afford the 3 mistakes. And that requires that we change the way that we operate the things, and the things are not plug and play, unfortunately. And in other industries, they are not plug and play, but it seems that they are easier. And actually, we've seen internally, depending on the activity, we've seen that has happened. I mean, it's not the same the things that happen in the network, that happens in the IT, that happen in the cloud. We see we are the same company, and we see that the tools that we have at our hand are different. So our hope, and here we intersect with the open source, is open source ready for the service providers? Depending on what? We have open source already for a long time. All of us, I mean, it's not a secret, but depends on the purpose and the degree of maturity for that purpose. So the challenge here is to bring that open source to the next place, that is the network itself, how we operate our core business. Not, I mean, because our wages for sure are calculated in an x86. So I can rely on that type of things. But actually, I'm fit for the purpose of managing IO-intensive workloads, creating a network structure, adapted, etc., etc. Who knows? And open source is a big opportunity to get closer to that plug-and-play environment.
Thank you. Chris Wright.
So first of all, I have to agree with your comments. I mean, we're all coming at this from different perspectives, but we're going in the same direction. And what I see is we've had a great indicator of where we're going with open source on the IT side and cloud environments. We have major innovation and rapid movement from open source collaboration in places like large public clouds. And those public clouds are actually producing services that the customers of the service providers are interested in consuming. The service providers are in a unique position to have a direct relationship with those customers, and also have the challenge of providing value in the service that they're able to give to their customers in a way that's competitive to a completely different operating model that we're seeing in the clouds. And so what I believe is that we've had a great, what I would even call a gross inefficiency in this industry, which is duplication of effort. And collaboration allows us to consolidate effort on the core sort of non-differentiated components of the stack and really focus on your business purpose and add value right where it's going to make a hit on your top line. So that's where I see it.
Thank you. Now, Chris Lewis, you're dying to get in there.
Well, I think
as an industry analyst, what do you make of that?
Well, I think the end of your question about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it is broke.
Well, that's a good answer.
You know, so the simple fact is that, and we have to move to a more software-based business in order to address what we've got today, let alone what's coming tomorrow. So if you think about IoT and 5G as two things coming down the line, and the complexity and the volume of traffic and the variety of traffic that's going to throw into the mix, we've got to be able to react as a business to all of those changing parameters. And I don't think we've been able. I think we can do that without the innovation of new vendors coming through and of the people at Red Hat, all this sort of environment. We've got to benefit from that ecosystem and not have that locked-in system which dictates the old engineering mentality of saying, okay, we're going to spend 12 months building it and then you might have a go at using it. So I think that it's that coming together, you mentioned quite correctly, of the network piece and the IT piece. And we still talk about those two things, as being separate. Whereas actually, that's the engine of the business. And I think the risk aversity of the telcos in the past, and you look at it across the world, and some have been very risk averse. I mean, I congratulate AT&T and Telefonica for grasping this particular nettle quite aggressively. But there's plenty that have sat there thinking, actually, surely something else is going to come along and save our bacon. So I think the timing is absolutely right for changing the mentality, getting that cultural change through, becoming a more software-oriented organisation,
and actually addressing what the customer needs, thinking about the customer building in rather than the inside-out engineering mentality.
Okay, thank you.